إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا إنه من يهده الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم على نبينا محمد وعلى آله وأصحابه أجمعين ومن تبعهم بإحسان إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد، يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء. اتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما. عباد الله، إن أحسن الحديث كتاب الله وأحسن الهدي هدي نبينا محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة. I bear witness that there is no true deity worthy of worship except Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. I praise Him as He should be praised. And I bear witness that the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam is His final and last messenger. O you who believe, have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and fear Him as He should be feared. And do not die except in a state of Islam, in a state of submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. O you who believe, have taqwa of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and say the correct thing, say the truth. If you do so, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will correct and rectify your actions. And whoever obeys Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His messenger, then he has already attained the ultimate success. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, the best of speech is the book of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And the best of guidance is the guidance of His messenger Mohammed sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And the worst of matters are newly innovated matters in this religion. Because whatever is innovated in this religion will lead you astray. Whenever will lead you astray will lead you to hellfire. Now before I want to start, inshallah, can I ask the brothers to please fill in the many gaps in the center. The closer you are to the Imam, the more reward it is. And I would also kindly ask the brothers and sisters, for the next 20 minutes, to at least abandon their phones. Put them away. Put them in your pockets. Better yet, turn them off. And the young brothers at the back, to lend me your ears. Stop talking. And stop saying salam to those who enter. Today I want to share with you something that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala quite often and His messenger share with the companions. And He subhanahu wa ta'ala and His messenger quite often do share this for a reason. This has to do with the vivid imagery and description of the trials of the Day of Judgment. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His messenger almost completely described it in a way that you can imagine it. For those who want to take heed and listen, so that they would not be surprised on the Day of Judgment. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala did this so that we can choose for ourselves what we want. To pick for ourselves out of which category of that Day of Judgment we decide to be. But more specifically, I want to talk about only one station because there's many stations on the Day of Judgment. But I want to talk about only one station. And when you ponder about the several stations by themselves, it is enough and is sufficient as a drive for any of us to desire to change the state of affairs. To stop being heedless when we're talking about timing in the masjid and ignoring the warnings and listening to the Quran and the Sunnah. To remember and truly reflect why we're here. It's enough of a reminder and an encouragement to change our lives around. To refocus why we're here. To refocus at the main target that we were headed towards. And this is one of those stations. And if you want to give this khutbah a title, it's Crossing the Bridge. Crossing the bridge. What bridge am I talking about? The Prophet ﷺ, when he was asked about a verse in the Quran, يَوْمَ تُبَدَّلُ الْأَرْضُ غَيْرُ الْأَرْضِ وَالسَّمَاوَاتِ. When the earth is changed to another earth, or to another ground, and the heavens. The companion asked, where are the people then? Prophet ﷺ said, فِي الظُّلْمَ دُونَ الْجِسْرِ. They'll be in darkness, دُونَ الْجِسْرِ, right before the bridge. That is the bridge I'm talking about. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَالْأَرْضُ جَمِيعًا مَطْوِيَّاتُ وَالْأَرْضُ جَميعًا قَبْضَتُهُ وَالسَّمَاوَاتُ بِيَمِينِهِ. When the earth entirely is in the grip of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the heavens are in His right hand. So the people asked, Aisha asked, where are the people at that time? The Prophet ﷺ said, on the bridge of Jahannam. May Allah protect all of us. So what is this bridge? What's it about? What's its description? From the hadith and the verses of the Quran, and mainly in the hadith, was the Prophet ﷺ was sent to clarify things, and he explained ﷺ these things. Can I ask the brothers at the door? The brothers at the door on the left. The brothers at the door. The brothers at the door. Please move up, so people can enter. Move up. Move up. There's a lot of empty gaps, so the people can enter. You don't block them. There's a spot over here beside that chair. So please move up. The Prophet ﷺ, I'm going to give you about 5 descriptions. Now I already know, by the way, this is, if you don't realize where we are at this moment in your judgment, it is after the people have received their books. Whether with their right hand or their left hand. This is after the resurrection and after standing for 50,000 years in trial and calamity and the sun so close and the people are in hardship that they ask the messengers of Allah to ask Allah to start the day of judgment. And the Prophet ﷺ is the one that takes that upon him and he prostrates in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala teaches him praises that nobody ever praised Allah with. And then he will be told to raise up, ارفع رأسك واشفع تشفع واسأل تعطى. Raise your head and intercede, you'll be given the intercession. And intercede, you'll be given the intercession. And ask, you will be given. And the Prophet ﷺ will ask for their judgment to be commenced. And so the books would fly to the right or to the left. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would order each nation to follow the one it has worshipped. And so those who had worshipped idols and the sun and the moon would follow them into the hellfire. And the only people remaining are those who worshipped Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Whether from this ummah or the previous ummah who truly worshipped and followed their messengers. And then they will be led to where I'm talking about right now, to the sirat, to that bridge. And darkness will fall, pitch black. Nobody sees anything. And the Prophet ﷺ, when he's describing the several ahadith about the sirat, its description, and I mentioned it is on top of Jahannam. Can you imagine this? So the Prophet ﷺ had said in Sahih Bukhari, as Abu Sa'id al-Khudri had mentioned, he said, ثُمَّ يُؤْتَى بِالْجِسْرِ فيجعل على ظهري جهنم. The bridge will be brought and will be placed on the back of Jahannam, meaning on top of Jahannam. And the companions asked, Mohamed, what is the bridge? So the Prophet ﷺ said, مَدْحَضَةٌ مَزَلَّةٌ. It's a slippery bridge. Mazalla, people slip off of it and fall. Where are they falling? Into Jahannam. Jahannam, the one that requires 70,000 chains to be dragged with 70,000 angels. That its fire is so intense and immense that it's 10 times of what we experience in this world. That is so hot, it turned black. That is so wide that it can actually fit the entirety of the moon and the sun and engulfs it and it asks for more. It's so deep that anything that falls through it would at least feel free fall for more than 70 years or more. This is the length of the bridge that will be placed on Jahannam. So it's on top of Jahannam. That's the first description. Other than the fact that it's pitch black. The third is that the Prophet ﷺ, as he described it, مَضْحَضَةٌ مَزَلَّةٌ. It is not like any bridge, it's a slippery bridge. The one you put your foot on, you slip immediately. And it's described in other hadith, or the scholars describe that people will fall from the left and the right. The fourth description, as the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned, is that it's sharp as a razor blade or a sword. As sharp as a razor blade or a sword. The entire length. The Prophet ﷺ, as mentioned by Salman al-Farisi, had said, وَيُوضَعُ الصِّرَاطُ مِثْلَ حَدِّ الْمُوسِ. The sirat, the bridge, will be placed and is sharp as a razor blade. In another narration, as a sword. When it's placed, the angels would ask, Ya Allah, who would you allow this to cross? Who would be able to cross this? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala answers and says, مَنْ أَشَاءُ مِنْ عِبَادِي, whom I ever will from my servants. So people will be able to cross. Now what is interesting, by the way, is that on the Day of Judgment, there is no way you're going to be able to resist or reject the orders of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When you're told to cross, you will cross. You have no choice. And this is what we're crossing. The fifth description is that on the sides of it is something that's called kalalib. The Prophet ﷺ, as mentioned by Abu Hurairah in Sahih Muslim, and another narration also by Sahih Bukhari, Abu Hurairah said, وَعَلَى وَفِي حَفَّتَيِ الصِّرَاطِ كَلَالِيبٌ مُعَلَّقَةٌ مَأْمُورَةٌ بِأَخْذِ مَنْ أُمِرَتْ. In another narration, it has shawk السعدان. The Prophet ﷺ said, عَلَيْهَا كَلَالِيبٌ مُعَلَّقَةٌ. On its edges there are kalalib. Kalalib are actually hooks, metal hooks. In another narration, these also hooks have thorns, twisted thorns, and the Prophet ﷺ said, described it as shawk al-sa'dan, in order to be able to visualize what these thorns are like. They're like shawk al-sa'dan. It's a plant that has extremely curving thorns. When they are actually, when the cattle is going through it, and it attaches to one of the wool of any of the cattle, it cannot be taken out. And the Prophet ﷺ said, تأخذ or مأمورة معلقة مأمورة بأخذ من أمرت به. It takes away who the Prophet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala had ordered to take. And in the other narration, فَتُخْطَفُ النَّاسُ بِأَعْمَالِهِمْ. People are knocked away based on their actions. That's the fifth description. The sixth, وَعَلَى جَنْبَتَيِ الصِّرَاطِ وَتُرْسَلُ الْأَمَانَةَ وَالرَّحِمَ فَتَقُومَانِ عَلَى جَنْبَتَيِ الصِّرَاطِ. In addition to all this, the amana, the trust, and the rahim, the womb, your ties to relatives, will be sent on the sides of the sirat. The scholars say because of their importance. Now the trust, whatever you are trusted with, whether you're old or young, will testify for you or against you at that time. If you ever betrayed any trust, if you ever cheated, if you ever stole it, if you ever did anything that betrays a trust, that time, trust would ask Allah that He had betrayed it. And you're on a slippery bridge. The womb would ask, or testify for the ones who had connected its next of kin, the relationship, especially the parents. It will testify whether you're dutiful or not. And if it's not, it will ask for its right, and it's a very slippery slope. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, these are the descriptions. The question is, will there anybody who will be able to cross this bridge? The Prophet ﷺ talked about 3 types of people who would cross that bridge. So sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said, فَنَاجٍ مُسَلَّمٍ وَنَاجٍ مَخْدُوشٍ وَمَكْدُوسٌ فِي نَارِ جَهَنَّمٍ. This is narrated by Abu Sa'id al-Khudri, Sahih al-Bukhari. The Prophet ﷺ mentioned 3 people. فَنَاجٍ مُسَلَّمٍ. Najin Musallam, a person who would reach the other side in safety, Musallam, without any harm. So some people will be able to survive this entire thing in darkness. وَنَاجٍ مَخْدُوشٍ. And a person who will be able to cross to the other side, however he has been makhdush, which means afflicted. His skin and his body has been touched, whether by the fire or those metal hooks. In some descriptions, the Prophet ﷺ would say, individuals would walk and a foot would slip and a hand would grab. It's a razor blade bridge. In another narration, some will be crawling on their stomachs all the way to the end. And then another category, the third, Makdusun fi nari jahannam. May Allah protect us from being of that category. And these are the individuals who would fall into Jahannam. So how can anybody cross? The Prophet ﷺ told us how individuals will be able to cross. In that pitch darkness, each one of us will be given light that is reflective of his deeds in this world. This is narrated by Al-Hakim and Al-Bayhaqi. The Prophet ﷺ had mentioned that each one of us will be given light based on their actions in this world. So some will have light as great and immense as mountains that clearly brighten their entire path. And some will have a light as big as a palm tree, whether on their right or their left. And some will have a light so dim that it flickers and it's at the tip of their toe. That light is at the tip of their toe, and it's not a constant light. It flickers. It goes on and off. If we are people that obey Allah sometimes and disobey sometimes, you walk a line, you skip another. You disobey a lot and you obey some. Perhaps this is the light we might get. When you're trying to cross the entire bridge in a flickering, dimming light, when it lights, you take a step. When it's off, you stop. This is the light we are given. And so, of course, the more pious deeds that we have, the more we refrain from disobedience, the greater the source of the light, the easier things are. Now, the Prophet ﷺ had mentioned in another hadith that people will also travel at different speeds. Now, that is also reflective of their deeds. And it's associated with the first hadith, so it's based also on the source of light. Some of them will cross the bridge. كَطَرْفِ الْعَيْنِ. You know the glimpse of the eye? That fast. Some like a lightning bolt. Others like the fastest of horsemen riding on the best of horses. And some on camels and their speeds. Others will be running as the fastest runner. And some will be dragging their feet and others crawling on their stomach. It's all based on our deeds. Wallah, it's a huge test. And it's sad that we sometimes are heedless of this. Now Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala once again and His Prophet mentioned this so that we prepare ourselves for a test. so that we would pick for ourselves what kind of lives we want to lead in this world, and then we see the effect of it in the hereafter. In a time where we really need all the help we can get, all the mercy that we can get from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And it's by Allah's mercy, He's the one that enables us to do these deeds, and He accepts whatever little we do, and He gives it immense rewards and multiplication. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to affirm our foot on a day where foot slip on the sirat. I ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to make us among the ones who always are mindful of Him, who always remember Him, and to enable us to correct and rectify our actions and come back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the best way possible. أقول قولي هذا وأستغفر الله لي ولكم. إن الحمد لله حمدا كثيرا طيبا مباركا فيه. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له. أشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى آل محمد كما صليت على آل إبراهيم في العالمين إنك حميد مجيد. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, as I mentioned, it is a difficult test. And so whomever wants to survive, we all should change now. The brothers and the sisters who are constantly acting on sins. And it's kind of funny, they're still talking in the middle of khutbahs. Maybe we should start to change and at least respect Allah's house. The brothers and sisters who are sinning, it's time to stop. The brothers and sisters who are having inappropriate relations with other genders, it's time to stop. The brothers and sisters who are not conforming to the Islamic attire, what are you waiting for? By the way, we're only a step away from all of this. The only thing that separates us from this and that is just our life in this world. The moment you're dead, that's it, it's sealed. And death knows no age. It does not discriminate. It does not matter what your status is, how old you are, what gender you are, what nationality you are. When it's time for you, it is time for you. Dear brothers and sisters in Islam, that being said, we have to also understand that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala really does want to make it easier for us. And He had promised us, وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا فِينَا لَنَهْدِيَنَّهُمْ سُبُلَنَا. Whomever strives in our path. وَالَّذِينَ جَاهَدُوا, by the way, jahadu comes from jahd, exerts their effort. For our sake, we will guide them. It's a promise. What it really requires is our sincere intention to want to change. And Allah will make it happen. He will facilitate it for us. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala makes it so easy for us to gain multiple rewards and forgive our sins to be forgiven. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, whoever does a good deed, مَنْ هَمَّ بِالْحَسَنَةِ فَعَمِلَهَا, whomever intends to do a good deed and he does it, فَلَهُ عَشْرُ أَمْثَالِهَا إِلَى 700 ضِعْفٍ إِلَى أَضْعَافٍ كَثِيرًا. If you do that one good deed, it will multiply it at least by 10 times. Up to 700 times, up to multiple more, depending on your sincerity. But the opposite, when it's a sin, وَمَنْ هَمَّ بِسَيِّئَةٍ فَعَمِلَهَا كُتِبَتْ لَهُ سَيِّئَةٌ. Whomever does a sin, it's only written as a sin. And in a beautiful hadith, the Prophet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, the Prophet mentioned, أَوْ أَمْحُوهَا, or I would erase it. So the hasanat will be affirmed and it will be multiplied, and the sins just one, but it also could be erased. This is why the Prophet in another hadith in the end, he said, وَلَا يَهْلَكُمْ عَلَى اللَّهِ إِلَّا هَلِكٌ. And he's not truly destroyed with Allah except the one that truly deserves destruction. Wallah, it's all in our hands, and Allah facilitates us. We just have to intend and make dua to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to bring us back to His path, to support us and lead us, to turn our hearts and affirm it to the straight path, to turn our hearts to His obedience, to bring back into our sanity, and not be heedless of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and to understand our true purpose in this world. اللهم اغفر لنا الأحياء منهم والأموات وارحمنا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين وسك الهدى والتقوى والعفاف والغنى ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار وسك العفو والعافية في الدنيا والآخرة وسك العفو والعافية في الدنيا والآخرة اللهم ثبت قلوبنا على دينك اللهم صرف قلوبنا على طاعتك اللهم ثبتنا بقول الخير في الدنيا والآخرة اللهم ثبت أقدامنا على الصراط اللهم ثبت أقدامنا على الصراط اللهم ارزقنا شربة الهنيئة من يدك محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم